everyone, and welcome to Two-Player Quest, where I help you on your quest to find the best two-player board games for you. In today's video, we have Unsettled by Orange Nebula. In Unsettled, you play as a group of scientists on a spaceship that is being attacked by a vicious wormhole. Now that you're on the other side of this attack, you are left on an unknown planet with no way home. So it is your job to achieve your mission and to live another day and make it home. But is 2 explorers enough, or is it better with more? Well, let's explore together. Unsettled is a game for 2 to 4 players that plays in 60 to 90 minutes. It's a 3.25 on Board Game Geek for complexity, so it's an easy to medium-ish kind of game. And it is a slight luck game. There's a tiny bit of luck involved in some parts, but mainly it's all very foreseeable and not that luck based. So, slight luck. This is what the board can look like at the start of a 2-player game. Here on the left we have the science board with the planet-specific tokens, then we have the resource board and the planet-specific cards. The starting scarab with our players and Luna. The board setup as is shown on the cards up there, which are the scenario cards. Then we have the timeline display and the opportunity display. And of course our player board. The scenario will tell you what to do. In this case, we need to build the research hut, the laboratory, and the workshop. But first we'll need to find places to build these locations. On every player's turn, there are several main actions that you can do. Move your explorer, you need to set your focuses. Move Luna, you can scan with Luna, and you have miscellaneous actions. Now, to move your explorer is very simple. You take your player pawn and move it to the next possible place. You can move your players 1 step for free. And then you apply the bonuses and the negatives shown on the card. Next option is to move Luna. Again, Luna can move 1 spot for free. Luna ignores any symbols on the side of the card. The next option you can do is scan with Luna. On the environment she's currently on, you can roll 1 of the dice, depending on what you would like to roll. You can either mine for data or minerals. You roll the dice and add that many resources to that environment. At the moment we do not have any miscellaneous action yet, but we can set our focus. Now, setting our focus means placing your dice on a certain spot. At the moment we only have the spots on our player board here to use, but later on in the game there will be more spots on the game board. If you see this symbol, if you use the blue dice in this case, if you use the green dice in that case, or the red dice in that case, you would gain an extra insight, which is what you need for more science. You would move this one up. So if I were to theorize with blue, it would cost me 1 pip on my dice. I would gain 1, and as you can see here, another player gains 1 as well. So my co-player also gains 1 insight. You have 3 focus dice to place, but you must always place 1 focus dice on the rest. When you rest, you would up that dice 1 pip and you would move the time track. Lastly, we are going to investigate, so we would gain 1 extra insight and then place the insight token that we are currently with on the spot that we are, and that we have already focused on an insight there. Then you draw an opportunity card and you do what it says. The opportunity stays there until the opportunity is resolved or discarded. The game ends when you have completed the objective shown on the scenario and everyone is safely back in the scarab. Teaching Unsettled to new players is about medium difficulty for them to understand, probably about 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, something like that. But the rulebook is an absolute beast to get through. It's going to take you a while to get through the rulebook. Luckily, only 1 person has to know the rulebook, has to know sort of how most things work. But it is certainly a trek to get through the rulebook for 1 person to start teaching this game to other players. But as long as 1 person has read the rulebook, you will be fine in this game. If you're looking for a puzzle game in which every scenario is different, different ways to win, different rules, different difficulties, and this is definitely a possible good game for you. The different difficulties mainly come per planet. So Winora, for example, has a challenge level 1, but there are some other planets that have a challenge level 4. So depending on the difficulty you want to play, you just grab a different planet. Now, this is the kind of game in which you can have what I call a dominant player, which is one player who basically plays the game for everyone, a bit like Pandemic, for example, in which one player can basically say, oi, you do this, you do that, you do that, and then we win the game. That is very possible in this game because it is such an everything's open, so an open information kind of a game. The game does try to negate this slightly. In the rules, it does say people have to ask permission before doing certain things, but if you have a dominant player in your player group, then that doesn't really matter. Usually they will get permission anyway. So, because it's a co-op, and that is probably the best thing to do. So this is something you might want to take into consideration when looking into this game, that you can have a dominant player. Unsettled is a nice game. It's been in our wish list for a while. We just hadn't bought it yet because we weren't sure about the game. What we found online wasn't very clear to us what we wanted, and we didn't know we wanted to have it until we were basically going to have to play it. So at some point we just decided to go for it. Now, we like the diversity in the game, we like the different scenarios, we like some of the mechanics, they're very fun, but in general it's not a game that we will be keeping. And this is mainly because of the replayability of this game. So once you've done a scenario, you know what's happening in that scenario, you know what you need to do, and for us, we don't like replaying that in games like this. We want the surprise of what needs to be done, and not, oh, we know exactly what needs to be done, where they need to be, and what's the most optimal. That's just not something we enjoy doing. Now, if this is something you enjoy doing, then this is an excellent game, because especially the first scenario, you can really try to see how you can do it in as few turns as possible, and try to optimize it if that's something you like doing. But for us, this just isn't the right fit to play over and over again. So we would rather sell it on and let somebody else have the fun. I would recommend this game for 2 players rather than more players. Because you have a set amount of turns, which I think is a max of 36 turns, when you're playing with 2, you have more turns to do than where you are playing with 4. Now, you do engage in other players' turns, but not as much as it is your turn. So it does feel like you're playing the game sort of less if you're playing with more players. Now, the game does suggest sometimes more players makes it easier. We have not had a singular problem with just being 2 players in this game. So it might make it easier, but it's not a problem with 2. So for me, this game is absolutely 2-player approved. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching our review of Unsettled. If you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, put them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you next time on 2-Player Quest.